Yes. Tikanete. Kala? Excellent, well done. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here today. And my talk is going to be all about the lessons that I have learnt being a teacher in the classroom in an inner city school in London for the last 16 years. And I want to talk to you about the power of the classroom and how special this place is. So this is a picture of my classroom, and it's very strange for me looking at this slide because it's empty. Normally it's full of mess, chaos. It's full of artwork taking place. It's full of energy. It's a space where mistakes must happen. Mistakes are encouraged. But most importantly, it's a place whereby confidence must occur. Now, I often get asked, who was your favorite teacher? And I want to ask you, just think about it. Who was the teacher who inspired you the most? Who was that person? I can hear some chatting in the audience. That's great. Wonderful. Well, if you were to ask me, I would say it's my students. And I want to talk to you about some of my students and what they have taught me. So we're going to call this student Alvaro. Now, Alvaro came to my school when he was 14 years old, and he was in the middle of studying his GCSEs. Now, he came from a special educational needs school. And I will never forget the moment that I met his mother. His mother came into the school and said, "Miss Zafeirakou, I know that my child will not achieve a GCSE. I know that. But I want him to be in this normal school." So I think I was a teacher for about 3 years at that time. And I've never heard that. I've never heard of a parent to say, my child will not achieve. And I thought, wow, okay, that's really interesting. And so I found out more about Alvaro, and Alvaro had many special needs. One of them was that he was a selected mute, so he would not talk. So remember, I was a teacher for 3 years, so really ambitious, energetic, excited, confident, I could change the world. And then in came Alvaro, and Alvaro changed that for me completely. When he came in, his body language was completely unknown to me. He was closed in like this, his head was down, face down. And he was absolutely terrified of being in my classroom. And I don't blame him. My classroom is known for being very loud, very energetic, busy. I've got Greek DNA, that's why it's loud most of the time. But I think the most important thing for me was that he came to a very different space. So he came in, and I said to him, "Alvaro, please sit over there, have a seat over there. And in front of you, you'll see some objects. There's a pencil there. Go ahead and draw it. Off you go." And off I went to help the other students. Half an hour later, I came back to see what he was doing. Nothing. He sat there with his jacket on, his hood up, closed, body language closed. What do I do? How do I engage with this young man? I went back again. I said, "Alvaro, just try your best." Left him, nothing. At the end of the class, I set a task for all of my students, and I said to them, "Right, guys, I want you to draw for me the object that you most love to use." And I knew I was going to get pictures of footballs, of cricket bats, of PlayStations. This is what I usually get. The bell rang, and off they went. They ran to the door. And I went to see Alvaro and what his work was, and there was nothing there. The next day, Alvaro came into the classroom, again, sat down, very shy, no eye contact, face down. And I was really confused. I didn't know, how was I supposed to get this child to love my subject? I teach art. I teach the best subject in the world. How dare he not like what I'm teaching? I went around the lesson and I collected the homework. I went to Alvaro. "Alvaro, do you have your homework?" Nothing. No sign. I thought, oh my God, he doesn't even do his homework. I mean, how dare he? What's going on? At the end of the class, the bell went and the students ran out as usual. But from the corner of my eye, whilst I was speaking to two girls, I could see Alvaro come up and from his bag grab a piece of paper, put it on my desk, and run for the door. I did one of those things. You know, teachers have got 360-degree vision, we know that. So I did that, and what I saw was amazing. And I just said, "Stop!" And he froze. Literally, he froze. Facing the door, but he froze. I went over to my table and I picked up what I saw, his work that he gave in. And what I saw just absolutely blew me away. It was the most beautiful drawing of a bass guitar. The tone was sensitive, it was accurate, the scale was there. You can tell he probably copied it from the internet. But as every child does, they always sign their name on the bottom, right? The work they love, they sign. The work they don't love, they don't. And then, as I was standing there looking at this work, I had that moment of, yes, this kid can draw. And so I went up to him. I stood right in front of him, so face on, right in his space. Not the best technique to use if you're a teacher, but I stood right in his space, and I said, "Alvaro, did you do this piece of work?" Nothing. Head down, terrified. This woman was asking him a question. "Alvaro, please, did you do this piece of work? Because it's amazing. I love it." And then that's what I saw. I saw his eyes open, and they were the most beautiful grey eyes I've ever seen. And he just went, "Right, okay. I ran to my table. I grabbed some sheets of paper, bottom drawer. I've got all leftover materials. Quickly emptied my drawer quickly as soon as I could. Put them in a plastic bag, gave them to him, and I said, "Alvaro, I want you to draw this, okay? I want you to draw this. Please nod. Do you understand me? I want you to draw this, and this. Do you understand?" He looked at me. He nodded. He grabbed the bag, and off he went. 1.5 years later, it was the day where the students received their GCSE exams. I was there. His mum came in, big hug. "Miss Zafeirakou, my son has got a GCSE grade. Thank you. They looked at me, and I was like, "I'm so pleased. What's wrong, Miss Zafeirakou?" And I said, "Well, actually, he was 3 marks away from a GCSE grade C. If he got a C, he would have done A-levels, and that's where the big things happen." To cut a very long story short, my head teacher helped by allowing Alvaro to do A-level art. And at the back of the screen there, you can see his A-level piece of work. He got a grade A. He got the best grade you can get at A-level. But what was most significant for me was Alvaro. He found his place in the art room. He was coming into our lessons all the time, sitting at the back of the lessons, doing his artwork. The younger kids would go up to him, and he would say, no, draw like this. No, rub that out, draw like that. He found his voice. And what I learned from him, and what I will never forget, is that number one, I was sad, I was disappointed with myself for not having high expectations, for not believing that he can. But second of all, what I learned about this child was that the arts are inclusive. The arts can engage every single child. And then you have those children in your classroom where you see their name on your register at the beginning of the year, you have a panic attack because you know it's going to be a hard lesson, you know it's going to be a hard year. So let's call this student Alex. Alex, he would come into the classroom, any classroom in the school, and after 5 minutes, it's guaranteed he will be running outside into the corridor, angry, frustrated, making noise. Again, he was a child who had many different special educational needs, and one of them was that he was severely dyslexic. He wasn't able to write in a straight line, and he was 12 years old. We started the project with Cubism, and he was around 12 years old at that time. And during the classroom, we were midway through a project where the students were creating their own Cubist portrait. he was carrying out his work, and before the lesson starts, what I normally do, I pick up a piece of work from the pile of work from the students, and we have a crit. We say, okay, what's going well, and what should this student need to do to carry on, to move on to the next step? Normally at that time, students say, oh, miss, I really like the background, I really like this, maybe he can try doing this. So as I was coming through to this piece of work here, I picked it up and I was like, oh my God, why can't you guys ever remember to put your name on the back of your work? Right, so whose work is this? Nobody. All right, let's move on. What do we need to do to improve? And the students were saying, miss, I really like the way he painted. Miss, I really like the way he mixed the colours. Miss, I really like the background. Miss, I really like the emotions. Then I turned and I looked at the work and I was like, actually, you're all right. So whose work is this? And then my mouth dropped. And then all the kids looked to see me. And what was I doing? I was looking at the back of the class, because at the back of the class, I could see Alex, completely away from everyone, doing this. And at that moment, I kid you not, at that moment, something incredible happened in my classroom. It changed me. The whole class, the other 29 students, started to cheer. They cheered. It was like we've just won the World Cup. It was the most beautiful moment. And I was trying to be, trying to remain professional. But inside of me, I was breaking down. I was in absolute floods of tears. The class parted. Down came Alex. I was holding his work. He walked up to me. He took the work, gave me a nod, went back to the back of the class, got the materials out, and he painted. What I learnt from Alex was that for that one moment, that one single moment, that child felt that he was just as good as everyone else. That he actually could spend the whole hour in that art class. That he was good. And that's what I learnt from this child. And so I often get asked, what is great teaching? What does it mean to be a great teacher? How do you become a great teacher? Well, I quite like this particular phrase. So the mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, but the great teacher inspires. Powerful, right? Inspires. And when we have a look at what does the word inspire means, I particularly like that second section there. The act of inhaling, the drawing of air or gases as in breathing. So inspiration, my job as a teacher is about inspiration. It's about helping a child come to life, to flourish, to grow, to become. So what inspires me? This. If I was to dig down deep, and I have to fight for my subject, I have to fight for the arts and education. And when I'm having a bad day, this is the picture that inspires me. Many of you know this. This is a piece of cave art dated 35,000 BC found in France. But when you stand and look at this piece of work, all you can think is, wow, how did they? What materials? Look at the lines, look at the journey, look at the energy. They captured movement. What is the story? A human did this 35,000 years BC, and it still inspires me. Now just remember, the teacher who inspired you, they're still in your head, right? Yeah? All those years ago. So let's think about what it does take to be a great teacher. Now, I'm not an expert, but I've met many, many teachers, and when I ask them this question, the first thing that says they come to is relationships. You must build relationships. Absolutely crucial. If you think about it, we spend more effort in building and helping relationships with other adults than we do with our children. Why? We need to invest just as much time with our young people so that they can build trust with us and they can help them on their journey. Now, kindness, really interesting one. Kindness is something which I think is very much underrated. What we sometimes fail to do as professionals is that we fail to walk in our young people's footsteps. We fail to acknowledge what their day-to-day is like. Do you know that that child has not had food for the last 2 days? Do you know that that child has just seen his mother being attacked by his dad? Do you know that child has been at home by himself, having to fend for themselves? No, we don't. But we must need to know this information, and we do that by building relationships. And the other thing is about having high expectations. Remember my story of Alvaro? I almost fell into that trap. I almost fell into that trap whereby I thought this child couldn't. His mum doesn't believe in him. He's got special educational needs. What's he going to achieve? I almost fell into that trap, and I regret that. So we must believe that every child can. And it's our jobs as professionals to try and make sure we create that opportunity for them, to make our classrooms feel inclusive and safe. Hungry. Well, Greek genes, hungry, orexy. You need to have the orexy, the hunger, the determination to become better as a practitioner. We need to want to be in our classrooms. We need to want to teach, right? These are our subjects, the best subjects ever. Why are we not constantly pushing ourselves, challenging ourselves to step out of our comfort zones, to grow and to become better practitioners? Another question, if you were a teacher, would you enjoy being taught by you in the classroom today? Throwing that out there. So what are the lessons that I've learnt? Many. If we have a look at our young people, let's reflect. Our young people are exceptional. They are changing. They want to grow. They want to learn. And it's just always been a privilege for me meeting new faces, new experiences, and trying to push that boundary. And yes, it's not always easy. You have 80% bad days in the classroom, but those 20% days, those ones that give you that golden fuzzy feeling in your stomach, that's why we do it. That's what knocks it out of the park. And as a teacher, I've learned that it's a complete privilege to be in the classroom, for another child to let me step into their life and help them on their journey, on their growth. And to me, watch that. To me, watch the challenges, the decisions they have to make, the mastery which they have to do, and for me to guide them across. But the other thing that I have learned is that as teachers, we are not respected as professionals. I have been quite fortunate that I've won an award, and I have many of my children come up to me and say, Miss, because of you, can you remember when you did that? And you did that, well, I didn't like you, but because you did that, I'm here, I'm a banker, or I'm working in industry. And that makes me really, really proud. But many teachers haven't had that opportunity. So please remember to thank your teachers. And so I think this is what it is. As engineers make bridges, artists make paintings, scientists make rockets, but teachers, well, we make them all. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.